Do you find your frustration, anger, emotions rising as your teens' emotions rise and maybe go off the charts? Yeah, it happens to all of us, and it can be especially challenging if you have a neurodivergent teen who struggles to manage their emotions. In this episode, we're going to explore several ways that you can stay calm when conversations with your teen get tense. Hi, I'm Crystal Wagner. I'm a life and parenting coach, and this topic is close to my heart as I have tried to learn to be a thermostat instead of a thermometer throughout the years as I have been walking this journey as a late diagnosed autistic ADHD mom with two neurodivergent children. Science backs this up. We have something called mirror neurons. Have you noticed if you smile at someone, they usually smile back at you? When you're playing with a baby, they like to mimic what you're doing. These are called mirror neurons, and it is a way that we connect with others, but it can also be a way that we match emotions with others. I learned about this when my daughters were in elementary school, and I read the essay that Martin Luther King Jr. wrote, A Letter from a Birmingham Jail. I'll link to that in the show notes in case you want to read it. But he talks about being a thermostat instead of a thermometer. And I started thinking about what that was like and what that would look like for me. And for me, it meant managing my emotions so that I could create as much as possible an atmosphere that was conducive for all of us to thrive, that allowed me to manage my emotions so that when my daughter's emotions got a little heated, I didn't get swept up in that. This actually got harder as they became teens, in part because their hormonal shifts were bigger and my hormonal shifts started coming in too. I think it was also because their brains were reorganizing and they literally could not manage their emotions sometimes because they weren't thinking. I watched a TED Talk by Jill Bolte Taylor that talks about the process as your teen's brain reorganizes and they become adults. It was really fascinating and gave me a lot more compassion through this time period. So I'll leave a link to that in case you want to check that out. This is also harder if you are empathic or your teen is empathic because you will feel the emotions much more strongly than you might otherwise. And so it can be even harder to become that thermostat instead of being a thermometer and letting your emotions rise as your teens do. But this is also really important. During these teenage years, it is easy for your teen to want to just check out and say, I'm just not going to pay attention to mom. But we want to provide a safe space for them. We want them to come to us when they're having challenging moments. So we need to develop our relationship so that they want to spend time with you. They want to hear your input. They want to come to you when they need that safe space and they need that support. But to do so, we have to make sure we're managing our emotions. Even though I had worked on this concept while my children were in elementary school and junior high, I had to come at it with a fresh perspective when they were in high school. The emotions that they had and the hormones I was experiencing made everything more volatile. And I knew the stakes were higher because if they checked out and didn't want to talk to me, I didn't have very long to regain that relationship. I learned some very important grounding techniques, and I'll leave a link to the Thermostat Approach PDF that you can download for free that has a list of all of the grounding techniques that you can use and some strategies to help you shift your mindset and to regain control of your emotions. 3 strategies have been really helpful for me. One is breathing exercises, just focusing on taking in a deep breath and letting it out really slowly has allowed me to regain my composure in the moment. Sometimes I also like to have a little tactile stimulation and I will rub the seam of my jeans, which helps me to ground back in the present. But there have also been some times I just had to get out of the house. I went for a long walk so that I could regulate in nature, allow myself to get some of the energy and the emotions out before I re-engaged with them. Whatever you need to do to find your centering place so that you can be calm and collected when you interact with them, try out some different ways. Find what is going to work for you, and you can find some suggestions in the PDF. Once I was able to be grounded, there were some things that helped me in the situations. Like I said, sometimes I had to remove myself from the situation. Even if I grounded myself, even if I came back to a place where I could be calm, they may not be. So whether it was that I needed to get away for a few minutes, or I recognized that they needed to cool down, maybe we both needed to cool down before we could have that conversation, I would remove myself. I didn't always do it as gracefully as I would have liked to. Sometimes I said, I have to leave. And that was actually a very grace-filled thing to do because I didn't say what was probably on my mind. Other times I could communicate a little better and say, we need to cool down. I have to leave for a few minutes. Either way, sometimes they got mad, and I had to accept that it's okay if they're mad at me in the moment. When we both cool down, we can talk about it. Sometimes I had to ask for backup help from my husband because I was too invested in the situation. Maybe the way that I was saying something wasn't getting through to them and they needed to hear it a little differently. We worked together as a team so that we could get through this stage. And importantly, I would always go back to them. When we had both calmed down, we would have a conversation. I might ask them, hey, what triggered you in this situation? What could I do differently? Or I might tell them what triggered me and say, it would really help me if you could use this phrasing instead. It would help me if you would tell me what's going on so I know what support you need from me. Regardless, what I want to know is how can we do this better next time? And it can be a little hard at first to have these conversations, but the more that you do it, the easier it gets, the more they expect that as part of the process, and they feel more respected themselves. Ultimately, these tips are helpful and hopefully have helped you to think a little bit about how you can find your calm in the situations that are challenging with your teens. But what you need is going to be different than what I needed. And it might be different from day to day or in different situations as your teen gets older, as you shift and change. So experiment, try different things, give yourself grace, give your teens grace, and ask for forgiveness when things don't go as well as you would like them to. If this topic is speaking to you and you want to find what will help you to find your calm in the midst of this stormy season with your teen or young adult, I want to invite you to Brick by Brick, Finding Your Calm in the Storm. It's an opportunity for you to experience LEGO Serious Play as we explore this concept of what do you need to find your calm. I'll leave a link in the show notes so that you can find out when the next session will be and how you can join us. In the meantime, I hope you'll subscribe, leave a rating and review to help others find this podcast. And if you're on YouTube, leave a thumbs up and leave me a comment. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next time.